The 10th row of the grid is going to be 169, Marcus Williams, and 196, Ian Howard. Those are the first two cars in the Puma Cup, with row 11 being 163, Luke Johnson, and 52, which was started by Neil Jackson. The 12th row of the grid is 21, Brendan Hibbard, and car number 110, which is Gareth Cotgrove, with row 13 being 142, Matthew Jackson. We've got 40 minutes on the clock, we've got beautifully dry conditions, and we're about to get our Quad Sports, Tin Tops and Puma Cup race underway. We'll keep an eye on what's going on in the Puma Cup as well, because that was all very tight in qualifying. It's the Hadfield Motorsport car that qualified on pole, which is the purple car that is on pole position in reality for the Puma Cup further down through the order. Red lights are on the gantry, and we're about to flash their way out any second now, which they do, and it's not a bad start from Nigel Ainge, to be fair, who is matching Adam Brown for pace, but it's a rocket of a start from Colin Simpson, who's going to make it 3 wide as they head up towards Ritchie's. Is the Peugeot going to take the lead? Is Adam Brown going to sweep around the outside? No, it's Adam Brown who sweeps around the outside to pick up the early lead, as they all, I think, safely make it through Ritchie's for the first time and head down in towards the braking area for the Wilson hairpin. Colin Simpson was trying to squeeze through into second place, but I think might have dropped to third here, because the fast starting Richard Bethel at the wheel of his Clio is trying to prise the door open. And in the Puma Cup we'll try and work out what's happening, because they're all still working their way through the Wilson hairpin. Watch out for car number 888, which is Andrew Windmill, who qualified out of position. Not very often you see Andrew Windmill qualify outside of the top 10. He was 11th, but arguably that is one of the quicker cars we have in the series, albeit because of his win on the Silverstone National Circuit he's got to stop for an extra 30 seconds, so watch out for the light blue number 888 Honda Civic Type R. So everybody's stretching their legs down the short straight towards Hamilton. The early lead in the Puma Cup is being disputed at the moment by, I think that's going to be Marcus Williams, that's fighting away with Luke Johnson for the early lead in the Puma Cup, but again we'll confirm that when they head over the start and finish line at the end of the first lap. Yes, it is. I can see the cars now as they head round through Oggies. It's always a good mark back to the Puma Cup, which are very much standard cars. You don't buy a pack of parts and build the car into Puma Cup specifications, so everybody's got the same equipment. And the Puma Cup is a very cheap way of going racing against the purple car that leads the way in the Puma Cup in the early stages of this one. But the race leaders already through Brundle and Nelson, and what a first lap from Andrew Windmill, who has carved his way from 11th on the grid up through the order to what I think might even be 4th place. Adam Brown has sprinted away in the lead of the race, as I said he might do. It's going to be Colin Simpson who's there in second place. Puma Cup, as we say, being led by the Hadfield Motorsport car, which is the purple and black car of Marcus Williams. And as the race leaders head over the start-finish line, might Andrew Windmill even be up into third at the end of this lap? Yes, he is. Adam Brown leads the way. Colin Simpson second. It's going to be Andrew Windmill who is up into third from 11th on the grid. Richard Bethel drops down into 4th place at the wheel of the black Renault Clio. Nigel Ainge is there in 5th place, and I think it's going to be the number 10 Renault Clio of Richard Fowle, who's there in 10th place. 10th place I should say, in what will be 6th place at the end of the lap. Sean Ely is up 4 places. He's up into 7th place, the Campbell Park winner. Then it's Chris Earl, Gary Barlow and Matt Churton who complete the top 10. So that's the order of the top 10. Nigel Ainge, I did say, would sort of go backwards a little bit, so 4 places lost from the pole sitting car. For Andrew Windmill, he's now through and ahead of Colin Simpson, so the Peugeot trying to fight back again as they head in towards the braking area for Agostini. Is the Peugeot going to go back through? Yes, he is. He's got the inside line. Andrew Windmill sees him coming, lets him go, and knows full well he'll have another opportunity to try and wiggle his way through and pass later on in the lap. So it's a Fiesta that leads, a Peugeot second, a Honda third, a Renault fourth at this stage. So 4 different manufacturers inside the top 4 in what is one of the older series. This first started in the Classic Sports Car Club back in 2005, was the first ever Tin Tops race that we've had, so it's been going on 20, 21 years now, the Tin Tops, and it's still as popular as ever with 28 cars having qualified this morning. So on to the Bentley Straight for the second time. Good fight going on for 7th, 8th and 9th, which is Sean Ely at the front of that little queue, but the race leader, Adam Brown, leading by 2 3/4 seconds at the end of the first lap. Race conditions very different to the qualifying conditions, where it was certainly wet and showers all the way through. So a beautifully dry track now. I suspect most of the teams will look to the skies and realise that, yeah, dry setup was the way to go. So just harden up that suspension a little bit, tweak the tyre pressures appropriately. As right the way around the outside at Coreham goes Andrew Windmill to try and pick up second place, but then runs very wide at Murray's, all over the curbs, all over the grass, and drops back down to third once more. So Adam Brown leads the way. Colin Simpson in second place. Andrew Windmill, despite his best efforts to try and grab second place, remains in third following that grassy moment, heading out of Murray's that time through. And Richard Bethel going beautifully well in fourth place at the moment. But we do need to remember that some cars have additional time penalties, and stopping on the start-finish line, that is Nigel Ainge with, by the look of things, is that damage to the front left-hand corner of the car? There's something that's not quite right with the front left.
Yes, it is. There was contact with a Renault Clio. I couldn't pick out exactly which one it was. It was Richard Fowle, actually. So coming out of the final corner, Nigel Ainge was slow. It looked like it was just pulling to the right-hand side. He tried to correct it, put his foot to the floor, and it went straight into the side of Richard Fowle. He's lucky he didn't go into the pit wall.
So I only just saw the tail end of that, so Richard Fowle then maybe with a little bit of damage to his car, but Nigel Ainge's car is trying his very best to try and get it out of harm's way, but the safety car is coming out because despite the best efforts of Nigel Ainge, the car sort of bounced up and down, and clearly with that damage to the front suspension it's done something to the drive shafts or something like that, which has stricken the car right up against the pit wall. It is going to need a recovery to it, and that means that the safety car has no choice but to be deployed. The leader of the Puma Cup is still going to be going the way of the purple car of Marcus Williams, which is the Hadfield Motorsport prepared car. I know Mark Hadfield is here this weekend. His father used to be a long-time racer, Aston Martin, in the swinging 60s some years ago. A mixture of Triumphs through into things like Pumas, and even in the Tip Tops for a period of time. Pacific was Hadfield. So there is the stricken Hillwood Autos car. So the safety car, Jack, is just heading round through Murray's, and with that breakdown truck in the middle of the circuit, as you said, the whole field is going to be brought through the pit lane this time.
Yeah, and we've got to keep an eye out for who is going to dive into the pit lane, into their pit box, apologies, because there will be a number of drivers wanting to do that, and I can't see why all of them wouldn't, because as we say, if you can pit under the safety car, it loses the net loss is way less, because the speed of other cars around the circuit, if anything, you can come in, stop, go back out there and immediately catch back onto the safety car queue, so it would save you so much time. I think Adam Brown is going to be directed in, the race leader. So too is the number 62 Colin Simpson. Is he going to pull in and serve his driver change? Adam Brown definitely is. Colin Simpson, unless he's at the top of the pit lane, he's going to stay out there. Andrew Windmill carries on up. Richard Bethel dives in. Andrew Windmill does now dive into his stop. Just in front of me comes Steve Papworth, so he stops. So too does Matt Churton. But now everybody's got to make sure they leave themselves a requisite amount of space to get back out of their back out of their pit box. But now the Puma Cup arrives and it all gets very busy indeed. Gary Barlow's also into the pit lane. So too is the 771 of Steve McDermott. So it's getting busy.
Yeah, why would you not pit? As you say, the difficulty is now making sure that everybody's got enough space to get back out of the pit lane and are not blocking anybody else in. That's the difficult thing. So, yeah, I think pretty much everybody has pitted other than Colin Simpson. John Baker decides to drive through the pit lane, so I think there's only two cars that hadn't pitted. Or did car 420 not pit in the end because that decided that there wasn't enough room to dive into the pit lane? It all got a bit tight.
I don't think that will count as a pit stop, because he was trying to find a free spot, but then parallel parking in your pit stop procedure, it kills a bit of time, but making sure that you don't nudge anybody and then everybody else has got the room to get out, it's a bit tricky, isn't it?
You mentioned that Gary Barlow had dived for the pit lane. It's well worth mentioning. I know he's hugely appreciative for R&J Autos to even get that car back out following his incident at Brands Hatch last weekend. The car looks slightly second hand still, but they've done a brilliant job of pulling the panels out on that car, sticking a new door on it and pulling the rear quarter panel out to at least get him out for this weekend, because it wasn't looking very likely come last Sunday. So the car, if you look at it at speed, it doesn't look too bad. You look at it closer up and it's you can tell that it's still work in progress, but I know Gary is hugely appreciative that that car is even out at all.
One thing I've just spotted as well, drivers being incredibly trusting in their team not to leave their pit box when it's unsafe to do so, because that then poses another challenge. Everybody arrives at the same time, so everybody wants to leave at the same time.
Yeah, I think we've had a change for the lead of the Puma Cup in the pit lane, because it looks like Luke Johnson has picked up the lead of the Puma Cup. I mean, a quick look down, remember it is a minute and 30 seconds minimum pit stop time for everybody unless you've got an extra time penalty, and everybody is the right side of it at the moment, including those that had extra time penalties to serve. The Puma Cup, it is Luke Johnson that leads the way in the Puma Cup, I think, which is the almost rapid fit livery back to the Super Touring car days of Ford Mondeos that adorns his car. And second in the Puma Cup, I think, is going to be Ian Howard, isn't it, at this stage, at the wheel of the car that John Glover owns and is regularly seen driving, kind of 196. So safety car peels its way into the pit lane. It's up to Colin Simpson to decide when he wants to get things going, but he dives for the pit lane, which now means as John Baker dives for the pit lane and car number 420 Kev Smith dives for the pit lane, that the race is back on again. And leading the way is car number 99 that now leads the way. Let's say car number 99, yeah, car number 99 that leads the way, which is going to be one of the Renault Clios. So that car leading the way, which is Ben and Josh Scott. So that car didn't pit stop.
No, I'm currently stood next to Josh Scott. Benny's going to be coming in. He was supposed to come in last lap, but I've got a feeling he'll come in this lap.
Right, so that didn't quite go to plan for the team then?
No,
he's leading the race.
I went over to grab a word with Josh and I said, I've lost track of everybody. Well, what's your name? What car number? Because everybody came in and I couldn't keep an eye on drivers. And Josh said, I'd love to chat, but Ben's coming in this lap. And then everybody else came in and Ben didn't.
So yeah, leads to, that's the problem, it's showing it's done a pit stop and you don't know whether it's a mandatory pit stop or not. So that car leading the way, but as yet to pit. Gary Barlow's having a good little squabble out there with what will be the number 46 car. That was the car that was started by John Ridgeon, is now going to be in the hands of Steve Reynolds, and Gary Barlow has now also got trying to go around the outside of him. Adam Brown's Ford Fiesta as they head round through Oggies, but Gary's not going to make that easy there. The cars that pitted this time through, so that is Colin Simpson now giving way to Steve Simpson. They trundle their way back down the pit lane. John Baker's completed his pit stop, as has Kev Smith. So there's only one car now to pit, which is going to be Ben Scott giving way to Josh next time through. Everybody else has now conducted their mandatory pit stops. So that made things rather interesting with everybody pitting on the same lap, barring 4 cars, 3 of which now pitted on the next lap, and the final one will pit this time through. So those are pitted on that lap, diving back into the pit lane. We'll give you a full rundown of the order next time through, because with the pit stops and the safety car period, it has all got a little bit confusing, but it should be car number 26 Chris Earl that will be leading the way at the end of this lap. He's about to flash his way as he over the start finish line. So yep, here comes Chris Earl. He leads the way in the Honda Civic, car number 26 from Richard Bethel's black Renault Clio in second place. Third place is going to be Steve Papworth, who's there in third place. Now Steve, we thought at the time, qualified out of position 18th this morning. Steve Papworth qualified. He's now up into third place. It's going to be Stephen Reynolds in fourth place, with Adam Brown in fifth, trying to attack. And I think Adam Brown at the moment is squabbling away with, was that the MG ZR he was squabbling away with, Stephen Dermott? No, he's made his way through and past Gary Barlow, so Adam Brown's now up into 5th position by the look of things, so he has made a bit more progress that time through. So Adam Brown, as a result of that safety car and having to serve that extra 30 seconds on the safety car, has somewhat negated the extra time they need to spend in the pit lane. He's now diving up the inside of Steve Papworth's Honda Civic and sneaks his way through. So that could now be up into third place for Adam Brown. And what can he do this time? Which really gets a little bit sideways with number 24 Ford Fiesta, some couple of rears on his car still. Into the pit lane does come Ben Scott that time through, ready to hand it over to Josh Scott. The Welsh flag proudly on the side of their Renault Clio. And the lead of the Puma Cup that was going the way of Luke Johnson is no longer going the way of Luke Johnson, because it does look as though Ian Howard now has made it to the front of the Puma Cup, car number 196, as he flicks his way through Hamilton. Down the Bentley straight, go the front runners. Chris Earl was leading the way by 2.1 seconds at the start of this lap. Incident between 86 and 10 will be investigated after the race. That was the car of Richard Fowle and Nigel Ainge coming together. 17 and 3/4 minutes of the race still to go. As we look towards the race leader, he'll be coming up towards the conclusion of the lap before too much longer. Chris Earl leading the way, or was at the start of the lap. And this time, as he comes over the start-finish line, it is still Chris Earl leads the way. So it'll be Richard Bethel that's there in second place. Adam Brown will be up into third at the wheel of the Ford Fiesta. So it's Honda Civic that leads a Renault Clio, a Ford Fiesta sitting there in third place. The lead of the Puma Cup looks as though it's shuffled again this time through, because Ian Howard has fallen back behind Luke Johnson for the lead of the Puma Cup. Who have you got, Jack?
I've got Ben Scott down here. Ben obviously just handed over to Josh, with a slightly different start to the race than what is sort of normally expected, but all coming through the pit lane. We've then struggled to keep track of who's been into the pit stops, but you left that quite late. Was it simply a case of just couldn't find the room when everybody was pitting all at the same time?
Yeah, I think that was the plan. We had an idea just to do about halfway, which we normally do. You know, we don't expect to be running at the front. And then I came through. I wasn't really sure whether we had to come through the pits on that one because of the car in the lane, on the straight. So yeah, we came in. My brother just told me keep going, and then at the end of the lap, everyone else came in. I thought, let's go. Why not? I'm unlikely to be winning a race anytime soon, so why not finish at least one lap?
What you have done is send him out in a load of clear space so he can go out there and really start racking up the lap times.
Yeah, that was the plan. It was totally accidental. I just came in when I did, and yeah, I mean, we're here to enjoy ourselves. This is only our second race. Trying to raise awareness. We've got a charity, Tidy Bat, which is a Welsh mental health charity, and we've got that all over the car. So it's just about learning, and then hopefully we can move on next season as well.
Amazing. Best of luck with the rest of the race.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you.
Quick word there with that of Ben Scott. Mark, back up to you.
Yeah, a very worthy cause as well, Tidy Butt as well. Safety car restart under investigation. Car number 42 and car number 142. So 142 is the Jacksons, which is Matthew and Sammy Jackson, and 42 is going to be a car that I can't see on the timing screen at the moment. So I do wonder if that number might be incorrect.
Yeah, I don't have a 42 either.
Yeah, no, it's not just me then, not just me. Puma Cup squabble is good as well. Luke Johnson has made his way back towards the sharp end of the Puma Cup, but is still under pressure from Ian Howard. So Luke Johnson, number 163, leads Puma Cup from 196, which is Ian Howard. Those two cars just heading down towards the bottom of the Bentley Straight at the moment, while some of the other tin toppers are trying to weave their way through and past, including Brandon Hibbard at the wheel of the slightly older Honda Civic, which runs in Class E. Through and over the start-finish line goes Richard Earl. He still leads the way from Richard Bethel. 6 seconds is the gap between first and second, but Adam Brown looking to try and squeeze his way through into second place as they came over the start-finish line, and I think has probably managed to do so. New fastest lap of the race, though, goes to the car in 7th place, which is Andrew Windmill, 2 minutes 11.059. So again, bit of a topsy-turvy race this one, with some cars losing time in the pit stops, the cars all coming out through the pit lane because of the blockage with Nigel Ainge's car stranded out on circuit. So it's still this race trying to settle its way down as we reach 14 minutes to go. The pit window, just to confirm, has now closed as well. The Puma Cup leading competitors heading round through Ritchie's corner, and the top three are all together in Puma Cup, because it is still going to be Luke Johnson that leads Puma Cup from Ian Howard, but not that far away is the Puma Cup pole sitter, who's currently running third in that category, which is the purple and black car of Marcus Williams. So let me run you down through the full top 10 at the moment. When they started this lap, 26 Richard Earl was leading the way. I just want to see as he turns his way down through Brummel and Nelson, who's there in second place, because I suspect it's Adam Brown that's now been to second place at the wheel of the Ford Fiesta. Look into the background of the shot, can't quite tell, but I think it's Adam Brown now, car number 1, that's up into second position. Indeed it was, just caught sight of him there. Number 318 Richard Bethel therefore will be down into third position. Yes, Adam Brown is there in second place. Richard Bethel is there in third place. But he's got Gary Barlow breathing down his neck in 4th position. 5th place is going to be the number 46 Honda, which will now be in the hands of Stephen Reynolds. 5th place will be 14 Steve Packworth, but he's under pressure from Andrew Windmill, who might be through to 6th by the end of the lap, but Windmill was 7th at the start of it. Steve McDermott in the MGZR is in 8th place. Matt Churton in the number 40 Renault Clio is 9th. And Charlie Ford in the 69 Ford Fiesta completes the top 10, or at least did, at the start of that lap. Restart of that race will be investigated after the race, is what we're hearing, so there's no further reports to bring you on that one. We have now had, yes, a change for 6th and 7th. Andrew Windmill had got himself ahead of Steve Packworth on that lap. Adam Brown did get through and ahead of Richard Bethel. There's also been a change for 9th and 10th place, as Charlie Ford goes through and ahead of Matt Churton. So the Ford Fiesta, number 69 now up to 9th, down to 10th goes number 40 Matt Churton. So Andrew Windmill, now that he's up into 6th position, the next target will be 2.5 seconds up the road, which will be Stephen Reynolds. So the two Honda Civics getting close to each other as they head in towards the braking area for Agostini. And that previous lap, 3.8 seconds quicker was Andrew Windmill, and he's only 1.5 behind at the start of the lap, so Andrew Windmill arguably should be through to 5th position at the end of this lap. So through Hamilton, up towards Oggies, the light blue Honda Civic bearing down on the silver machine with black bonnet in the hands of Stephen Reynolds. That's the car that was started by John Ridgeon. Andrew Windmill also had to stop for an extra 30 seconds in the pits, but under safety car that doesn't give you quite as much grief as otherwise it would do in full green flag conditions. Andrew very quick coming out of Williams and onto the Bentley straight, picks up the slipstream and the toe of Stephen Reynolds, but can't overtake when they go into the braking area for Brundle and Nelson because there's waved yellow flags down there, so he's just got to hold station as they head through Brundle and through Nelson. Can't quite see what's brought about those yellow flags down in that section of the circuit, but either way the drivers obeying the flag signals and opting not to overtake. And then for Andrew Windmill, he can have another little nibble potentially on the run through Corham and up towards the braking area for Murray's, or he can keep his powder dry and wait until the start-finish line to squeeze his way through. We've had a change for 3rd as well, because Gary Barlow now, the Honda Integra DC5, number 30, the hastily repaired car to get it out for this weekend, is repaying R&J Autos beautifully because he's through and ahead of Richard Bethel. Number 26 Chris Earl still leading the way by 6 3/4 seconds from Adam Brown. Chris Earl was faster than Adam Brown that time through. Andrew Windmill has picked the pocket of Stephen Reynolds and goes through to 5th position on the run in towards Ritchie's corner that time through. So having overtaken one Honda Civic, he's then got another one to overtake, which is to put a lap on Kev Smith's orange and black number 420 car as they turn in towards the Wilson hairpin. So Andrew Windmill, our Silverstone national race winner. Last time out was where Andrew Windmill picked up his first win of the season. The Ray's Alloys back car bouncing off its suspension as he turns his way out of Palmer and heads onto the infield section, the technical section of the Snetterton 300. It's now going to be focused on catching Richard Bethel's Renault Clio, which is the next of the cars that he will want to deal with, and that Renault Clio isn't that far up the road either. Stephen Reynolds is he hasn't got past Kev Smith's Honda Civic just as yet. He finally does so on the outside of Hamilton and places a lap on the black and orange number 420 car, so he can now concentrate his efforts on what's going on. Over the start finish line comes a squabble for the lead of the Puma Cup as well, and that's Luke Johnson, who still only just leads it from Ian Howard. So it's the blue and red Ford Puma, blue and yellow Puma that leads it from the all yellow Puma of Ian Howard. And 3rd in the Puma Cup is Marcus Williams, who had close up to them, but now the wheel of the Hadfield Motorsport purple and black car has just fallen away again to a degree. That being car number 169, that's 3rd of the Puma Cup competitors. So that's a good little score to watch out for. 1st and 2nd in the Puma Cup. It's just working its way out of Palmer now and down the short straight towards the braking area for Agostini. Luke Johnson has been a long-time competitor in Puma Cup over the years. Ian Howard, who first appeared, I think it was last year, Alton Park last year was the first time we saw Ian Howard appear. And for Marcus Williams, I think it's the first time I've seen Marcus driving a Puma Cup. Certainly of the race meetings that I've been at, so leading 2 in Puma Cup. If they hold each other up, it could become a trio again for the lead of Puma Cup. We'll have to wait and see. Chris Earl still leading the race overall with 8 minutes to go. Andrew Windmill now, he's up into 5th place at the wheel of the number 888 Honda Civic, has set another new fastest lap of the race. 2 minutes 10.626. He was 3 seconds quicker than Richard Bethel. Should be through to 4th at the end of this lap, I would have thought, as the Puma Cup front runners head down towards the bottom section of the circuit through Brundtland, through Nelson. Peugeot 205 and Sean Ely also claimed 2 places on that lap. He was up from 11th to 9th at the wheel of the Peugeot 205, which I think without question is probably the oldest car we've got in the field this weekend. But the lead battle in the Puma Cup still absolutely raging as they work their way through Coram. And if anything, they're starting to catch up with the slightly older Honda Civic in the hands of Brandon Hibbard, who got past them a few laps ago. Also trying to work his way back through is going to be the Simpsons in there. Number 62 Peugeot. So that lost a huge raft of time and has gained 6 places on that lap. Number 62 car running in 15th position overall. The leading Pumas still absolutely rooted together now. Has Ian Howard this time got a better run coming out of Ritchie? He's looking for the inside line as they head in towards the braking area for Wilson. Outbrakes himself, dives up the inside, but then runs wide on the exit of the corner. And Luke Johnson retakes the lead of the Puma Cup once more. Ian Howard could not have braked any later there and still kept the car pretty much on the tarmac. Maybe a little bit of grass on the way out, but Luke Johnson saw him coming and didn't try anything there. Saw that the car that was trying to take the lead in the Puma Cup was going to run out of tarmac, and indeed did. So that sort of settled the Puma Cup battle down for the moment. Chris Earl back over the start-finish line, leading by 7 seconds from Adam Brown. Andrew Windmill gains 2 places on that lap, and now the 888 Honda Civic is up into 3rd place overall. He is the quickest car out there. He was nearly 2 seconds quicker than Adam Brown. He was 2.5 seconds quicker than the race leader, and he's only 12 seconds off the lead with 5 3/4 minutes to go. So I wouldn't rule out the fact that Andrew Windmill could be challenging Adam Brown for second before too much longer. Depending on how long it takes to get past him, there might be enough time maybe to catch Chris Earl for the lead. We'll wait and see. Elsewhere in the Puma Cup, there's a good fight going on for 4th and 5th in the Puma Cup, which will be Gareth Cotgrove at the wheel of the number 110 car, just working his way out of Williams and onto the Bentley straight, coming under pressure from the number 152 car that sits behind, which is going to be a car that was started by Neil Jackson and now has Nick Fulljames behind the wheel. There's another good fight between the 2 Ford Fiestas as well. Catherine Henderson, car number 177, is managing to keep Alan Wiltshire at bay at the wheel of his slightly newer mark of Ford Fiesta. Those two heading over the start-finish line now, and they'll be fighting for 13th and 14th places overall as they head up towards Ritchie's corner. Henderson with probably the smallest wing mirrors you'll ever see on a Ford Fiesta. They are absolutely tiny in his Ford Fiesta. So Andrew Windmill, I want to try and keep an eye on how he is getting on, because he is the quickest car out there out on circuit. He was up from 5th to 3rd last time through the wheel of the light blue car. How close is he to Adam Brown? Because he was a couple of seconds faster than him last time through. They've all had traffic to deal with, which is the tidy but Josh Scott driven Renault Clio that time through. So Andrew Windmill just working his way round through Coram. Jeremy Barlow not that far behind him at the wheel of the R&J Motors backed Honda Integra DC5. So the car has been hastily repaired to enable it to get out this weekend. Through goes Adam Brown. He does his best lap of the race so far, 2 minutes 11.9. Andrew Windmill 0.4 of a second quicker. So lead advantage 6.3 seconds from Chris Earl back to Adam Brown, 5.1 back from Adam Brown to Andrew Windmill, and a further 3 seconds off that is Gary Barlow. Another 2.5 off that is Richard Bethel. So I'm sure we're going to see a great deal more shuffling at the sharp end. I think Andrew Windmill is running out of time to catch Adam Brown, who now realises the car is closing and has upped his pace, having done his best lap of the race last time through the second place car. Chris Earl could be on for a win in the Quad Sport tin tops here, leading by 6.3 seconds from the number 1 car of Adam Brown. Now, he was 0.6 of a second quicker Adam Brown last time through than the race leading Civic. So it's a Civic from a Fiesta, from a Civic, from an Integra, from a Renault, from a Civic. The top 6 currently. As in third place, Andrew Windmill heads in towards the braking area for the right-hander at Oggies. Gary Barlow sitting there in 4th place. Will be more than happy just to be out this weekend. If he can finish in 4th, he'll be absolutely delighted after the disappointment of last weekend. There's an off, and I'm afraid that's Stephen Simpson that's had the offer. We were originally told it was going to be Colin Simpson sharing with Steve Simpson, but again I've got a query there because it only says Simpson now as a surname on our TSL timing screen, which suggests it's a solo drive rather than a shared car. So Andrew Windmill through Brundle and through Nelson. Race leader is on lap number 14 at the moment. Barlow, wheel of the Honda Integra DC5, trying to stick with Andrew Windmill. Race leader Chris Earl carving his way through the traffic, which is the Puma Cup battle that's going on at the moment, which is the purple car of Marcus Williams, who will be 3rd in the Puma Cup but is under big pressure from Gareth Copgrove as they drop off the lead lap. Through goes Chris Earl with 1 minute and 49 to go on to what will be the final lap of the race, with a 3.7 second advantage between himself and the number 1 Ford Fiesta of Adam Brown. So that was a slower lap from Chris Earl, and that's largely to do with where he met the traffic. Now Adam Brown is tasked with having to deal with the traffic, which he dives past the squabbling Pumas on the run in towards the braking area for Williams. The purple Ford Puma desperate to try and hang on to a podium spot in the Puma Cup, which is the car of Marcus Williams. Gareth Copgrove desperate to try and wiggle his way through. They are now holding up Andrew Windmill inadvertently, who's trying to place a lap on them. Andrew picks off one of the cars, Gareth Copgrove, round the outside at Palmer, and then jinks to the opposite side of the circuit to squeeze his way through and past Marcus Williams. He gets that car done and dusted before they get towards the braking area for the left-hander at Agostini. And Andrew Windmill that time through sets the fastest lap of the race and closes to within 3 seconds of Adam Brown in the Ford Fiesta. So everywhere you look, there are battles going on at the moment. Chris Earl still leading the way but getting caught by Adam Brown, who is getting caught in turn by Andrew Windmill. The final spot in the Puma Cup still up for grabs as well, as the number 169 Hadfield Motorsport car of Marcus Williams still trying to palm away the aspirations of Gareth Copgrove. Those 2 cars just making their way on towards the Bentley Straight for the final time. The clock is now showing there are 20 seconds to go. Chris Earl should be heading up towards the conclusion of the lap before too much longer. It looks so that winning the Puma Cup is going to go the way of Luke Johnson, because he has got enough of a gap between himself and Ian Howard so as not to worry. And for Chris Earl, he is about to come up to potentially place a lap on the cars that are fighting over 1st and 2nd in the Puma Cup, you see. So Chris Earl up towards Murray's. The clock has ticked to 0, and he's going to accelerate his way onto the Senna straight, and he's going to put a lap, I think, on the car that's 2nd in Puma Cup, which is Ian Howard, which means that Luke Johnson then, because he remains on the lead lap, should pick up the win in Puma Cup. Checkered flag comes out. The win in the Puma Cup, just to confirm it, will go the way of Luke Johnson, who was the last of the cars that will finish on the lead lap. So he has not as yet taken the checkered flag in the Puma Cup. The cars that finished 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the Puma Cup have all been lapped and therefore have taken the checkered flags. It will be Ian Howard who finishes 2nd in the Puma Cup. It will be Marcus Williams who finishes 3rd in the Puma Cup, and despite the best efforts of Gareth Copgrove, he would just miss out on the Puma Cup podium